Welcome to the NFL's legal tampering period here, folks. We're here to cover all of the latest, or at least most of the latest. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. And before the legal tampering period really started, I think the Bills accomplished their flashiest moves. They traded for DJ Moore. That was, as we talked about before, that was a second-round pick for DJ Moore and a fifth-round pick. They re-signed Connor McGovern to maintain continuity on their offensive line, which is terribly exciting for most non-football people, I know. They signed Alec Anderson, who is likely to slot in as left guard, thus completing that starting offensive line. And here in the early tampering period, they signed cornerback Dee Alford, lately of the Atlanta Falcons. He's likely to be the Taron Johnson nickel cornerback replacement with versatility to kick outside. And I think the Dee Alford signing might be the most interesting and telling thing that we get out of the Bills here in the early going. With a new defensive coordinator, that defense was always going to lose some familiar faces and have some new guys plugged in. But when you try to read the tea leaves a little bit and see what that defense is going to look like, Dee Alford is a big signing in terms of helping us do that. Why? Well, because he is a guy who is a nickel cornerback, mostly by trade, slot cornerback, but he played a ton of snaps on the outside last year as well and did quite well. 3 passes intercepted last year. That tells you a lot about what a defensive coordinator wants. He wants versatility. He doesn't want any grouping of players to tell you what's about to happen or what's going to be in front of you. That was the downfall of a lot of the Sean McDermott defenses. Depending on who was on the field, you kind of knew what they were going to run. Now, the numbers would tell you that they were, in the regular season at least, pretty damn good at running it. But you knew kind of what was coming. There was going to be some kind of soft zone or some kind of pressure depending on which individual players were on the field. A guy like Dee Alford you bring on because you want to be able to move him around or have him on the field, and the offense has to guess at exactly what the defense is up to. We also had some telling signs on the offense of what Joe Brady wants to run, because we lost Reggie Gilliam, fullback / tight end, stalwart of the Buffalo Bills for the last few years, a Sean McDermott favorite, a special teams player as well, who we're now going to have to replace. Now, he's a versatile guy on your offense, but you have a fullback on your team because you really want to go heavy run and you want to lean into running as your identity. And as we know from what Brandon Beane and Joe Brady have said many times and what the Tyler Dunn article told us back in 2023, Sean McDermott loved him some ground and pound ball control offense. And as the head coach, it was his right to mold both sides of the ball in his own image. He loved that style of offense under the theory of, eat the clock, keep the ball away from the other team, give your defense a break, and essentially grind the game out. Joe Brady is already saying that on both sides of the ball and showing on both sides of the ball he wants to go a little bit more aggressive. He wants to be more aggressive if for no other reason than they went out and they got DJ Moore, who is more of a deep threat than any of the receivers the Bills currently have on the offense. And by deep threat, I mean ability to stretch the field and win the contested catch. Keon Coleman might have the ability to win the contested catch. We've seen it in flashes. We haven't seen it consistently. But his top-end speed was never his calling card. It tells you a lot when Brandon Cooks, who got signed essentially off the street, became our instant number one deep threat when he joined the team. Now, he started off dropping a bunch of balls, but he eventually became, He was targeted as the deep threat, and he eventually became that number one deep threat. Even though we had a bunch of guys who were already playing on the team and who knew the playbook and had been working since training camp. So you can tell from the early going here, number one, that the Bills were never going to be in on any of the big splashy free agents. And two, both sides of the ball are looking for more aggressive play. So what is that ultimately going to look like? I was talking with my buddy about this over text last night. What is this ultimately going to look like for Jim Leonhard? It's going to look like multiple front defenses. Now, he runs a 3-4 base defense, but all that means is that his basic playbook in its simplest sense is a 3-4. That doesn't mean that it's always a 3-man front. It could be a 4-man front. It could be a 4-man front. It could be a 5-man front. 6-man front would be ridiculous. That would be like high school ball. I've seen 6-2s in like a high school defense, and or the Bears in like the 50s or 60s. A 6-man front would be absurd. But you might see 6-man pressure packages up front. So there wouldn't really be a 6-man front, but you would see pressure packages where you've got 6 men on or near the line of scrimmage. That's aggression on defense. And it's a needed change of pace from the sort of soft zone, bend, don't break era of defense under Sean McDermott. The bend, don't break defense was highly effective in the regular season. But it was highly effective in the regular season when you really... I know people say, like, oh, the playoffs are just different. And that's something people say in a bar, right? Oh, the playoffs are just different. Yeah, I get it, but it's not a quantifiable stat. Like, I don't know what makes the playoffs so different. But they just are. It's unquantifiable in some ways, but teams who make the playoffs elevate. And I don't know what Josh Allen statistically elevates himself in the playoffs. I don't know how he does it. I don't know what smelling salts he uses to get there, and I don't know what it is about the bright lights that make him, go up a level, but he does. All the best playoff teams do. I mean, you saw it with the Panthers and the Rams game this year. The Panthers won the NFC South. Like they, quotation mark, won the NFC South. They were the least bad team in the NFC South. And for that, they got to host a playoff game. And yet, if you watch that LA Rams-Carolina Panthers game, you saw two teams that absolutely deserved to be on the field with each other, because the Rams, by the numbers, the Rams should have smoked the Panthers. They should have dog-walked them out of the arena, out of their own stadium. And yet, the Panthers showed up for the game, ready to play, and they elevated. The problem is, when teams elevate like that, if your whole philosophy of your team, which offensively and defensively, run and ground and pound, control the clock, and soft zone defense, it really is. Bend, don't break. That's not an attacking style. And when teams switch to attack mode in the playoffs, they can really take advantage of that. We'll let them just dink and dunk underneath. Well, the problem is when you let them dink and dunk underneath, good teams are going to score. That was really the issue with McDermott's defenses, that under the brightest lights, they tended to bend and break. So we'll see if this new aggressive style of team helps the Bills out. I think it will. I think it's going to be very good for the Buffalo Bills to switch to this more aggressive mindset. And frankly, I think it can't hurt regardless. But it does mean a lot of familiar faces and a lot of fan favorites are going to go by the wayside, and I'm very sad to see those days coming. But we'll keep you posted here. We'll try to keep rounding up news as we get more news. Follow us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. We'll keep you posted there as well. And if for no other reason, then it's time to start the week with a smile. Happy Monday. I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a great day.